The tension in the studio was electric from the moment Keanu Reeves walked onto the stage. Fans had gathered expecting a usual fun night of banter, nostalgia, and a few inside jokes about The Matrix or John Wick. What they didn't expect was the grim look on Keanu's face and the oddly cold reception he received from Jimmy Kimmel. Keanu sat down, exchanged a quick nod with Jimmy, and folded his hands as the applause faded. Jimmy, normally cheerful, jumped into an awkward question about Keanu's recent silence in Hollywood. Keanu deflected, keeping his answers short and precise. It was clear something was off. The air grew thicker with each second, the tension almost visible, as if a storm was creeping into a space meant only for laughter. Jimmy pressed on, trying to squeeze something light out of Keanu, but the actor's eyes revealed a deeper frustration simmering beneath the surface. Jimmy smirked, perhaps trying to lighten the mood, but his next comment, something flippant about Keanu's acting style, crossed a line. The audience chuckled, but Keanu didn't. His jaw tightened as he leaned forward, his calm voice slicing through the noise. "You know, Jimmy, it's easy to mock someone when you've never walked in their shoes." The room fell silent. The host, caught off guard, tried to laugh it off, claiming it was just a joke, but Keanu wasn't smiling. The actor shifted in his chair, his presence now commanding. Jimmy looked momentarily unsure, glancing at his cue cards like they might offer an escape. But there was none, Keanu continued, revealing that he'd been invited under the promise of a respectful conversation about mental health and his charitable work, topics that had been conveniently left out. His tone was still calm, but his eyes burned with disappointment. Kimmel, always quick with comebacks, tried pivoting, tossing out a reference to Keanu's meme status, but the damage was done. Keanu took a deep breath and launched into an unexpected, impassioned speech. He spoke about the state of celebrity culture, how it dehumanizes public figures, turns pain into punchlines, and mocks silence as awkwardness. He called out late-night formats for reducing complex people into clickbait. The audience listened, unsure whether to clap or stay quiet. Jimmy interrupted, suggesting a commercial break, but Keanu raised a hand. "No, I think people need to hear this," he said, voice steady but unrelenting. The cameramen looked at each other, unsure whether to cut. Producers behind the scenes scrambled, their voices sharp in the control room. Keanu wasn't yelling. That's what made it powerful, his stillness. The conversation shifted. Keanu started sharing personal anecdotes, stories about grief, empathy, and what it means to exist in a world obsessed with image. He spoke about losing loved ones, about strangers who showed him kindness, and about the silence that follows a trauma when cameras fade. The audience hung on to every word, sensing this was no longer an interview but something real, raw and unfiltered. Jimmy, however, visibly uncomfortable, tried regaining control. "We're a comedy show," he said. Keanu nodded. "Then maybe comedy needs to grow up," he replied. The clapback was gentle but piercing. Murmurs rose from the crowd. Some clapped. Others looked at Jimmy, waiting for his next move. The host adjusted his suit jacket, sweat visible near his collar. It was rare to see him out of his element, and even rarer to see Keanu so resolute. Then, without warning, Jimmy snapped. Whether from pressure or bruised ego, he raised his voice, accusing Keanu of hijacking the show. "You were invited here to talk about your movie, not lecture my audience," he barked. Keanu leaned back unfazed. "Maybe your audience deserves more than just product placement and punchlines." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Gasps echoed across the studio. The exchange, now heated, no longer felt like entertainment. Jimmy stood, signaling to producers. "We're done," he declared. Keanu stood too, slowly, without raising his voice. "You're right, Jimmy, we are." Cameras continued rolling. Studio staff moved in, trying to manage the situation. Security approached but paused when Keanu turned and calmly began walking off the stage, not looking back. The audience, stunned, started clapping. Not for Jimmy, but for the actor who dared to be human. The incident went viral within minutes. Clips flooded social media, Each angle dissected, subtitled, remixed, and debated. Some praised Keanu for his authenticity and courage. Others criticized him for turning a talk show into a therapy session. But most agreed. Something about that moment felt necessary. Hashtags like Keanu Unfiltered and Let Them Speak trended for days. Major news outlets picked it up, with headlines ranging from Keanu destroys Kimmel to Reeves breakdown or breakthrough. Think pieces emerged overnight. Was this a turning point in how celebrities are interviewed? Was this the end of safe PR appearances? Amid the chaos, Keanu remained silent, not addressing the media storm. He disappeared, as he often does, back into the quiet spaces he's known to seek. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel returned the next night, unusually subdued, offering a half-hearted explanation without apology. In private industry circles, executives were abuzz. Some feared the backlash would scare other stars from appearing on live shows. Others welcomed the shakeup, admitting it was time the format evolved. One anonymous network producer told a blog, "Keanu just did in 10 minutes what we've been too scared to try for 10 years. Meanwhile, fans flooded Keanu's foundation with donations, honoring his request to turn the moment into something positive. Mental health groups voiced support, saying his words validated struggles rarely spoken aloud on such platforms. Quietly, other celebrities reached out to Keanu, offering solidarity. A few even canceled upcoming appearances on Kimmel's show. It wasn't a boycott, they said, just a time to pause and reflect. And for once, that didn't feel like PR speak. It felt like change. Something had been cracked open. Weeks later, in a small online interview with an independent journalist, Keanu addressed the event. He didn't attack Jimmy. Instead, he spoke about intention, space, and the cost of silence. "I wasn't trying to ruin anything," he said. "But if we're going to keep pretending these shows are real conversations, then let's actually have them." He emphasized that it wasn't about drama. It was about dignity. He called out the industry's obsession with virality, noting that real emotion shouldn't be entertainment fodder. The interview went largely unnoticed by mainstream outlets, but fans shared it widely. In it, Keanu thanked the audience from that night, not for clapping, but for listening. He closed with a quote from Rumi. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." The screen faded to black. Meanwhile, Kimmel's show saw a dip in ratings. Not catastrophic, but noticeable. More importantly, the tone shifted. Monologues grew tamer, interviews shorter. Guests appeared more guarded. The laughter remained, but it rang slightly hollow, as if the studio had become aware of its own echo. Jimmy, to his credit, did a segment weeks later called "When It Gets Too Real," where he acknowledged the growing conversation about vulnerability in media. It was an attempt at self-awareness, maybe even redemption. But for many, the damage, or the awakening, had been done. Keanu's confrontation wasn't just about him. It was about all the people who watch late-night television hoping for more than just a distraction. It was a reminder that even in the spotlight, people are still people. And sometimes, truth shows up uninvited, without makeup or rehearsal. Months passed. The moment became myth, quoted in online forums, referenced in film studies classes, debated in media think tanks. Keanu, true to form, never cashed in on the attention. He returned to film, choosing smaller roles, backing indie projects, and continuing his philanthropic work. He remained, as ever, quiet yet profoundly present. Jimmy's show survived, adapting slowly, perhaps unwillingly, to the new climate. Other shows took cues from the incident, inviting deeper, more human conversations into their segments. And, somewhere in the noise, a truth remained. That one unscripted moment on live television had cracked the surface of something bigger. Not a feud, not a scandal, but a shift. Because sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to play along. One man in a chair saying, "Enough," and the world, for a brief moment, listens.